Hey guys, welcome to the very first episode of Mysteries Unknown, where we talk about the unknown mysteries in the universe coming from a cop's perspective. I'm your host, Joshua Smith. Today we got a really cool story. It's about Portlock, Alaska, a really cool town. If you've not heard of it, you must be living under a rock. But today I've got a really special guest. Before we jump into that, I want to introduce you to Darren, one of the smartest guys I know, but he does not believe in Bigfoot. He doesn't believe in any of that stuff. So we're going to bring him in from that perspective, and we're going to go back and forth because I tend to believe in Bigfoot and things like that. So anyways, what's up, Darren?
What's up, Josh?
We've been talking periodically off and on about this ghost town of Portlock. This town really fascinates me because people have tried to settle this town 3 times, correct?
3 times.
Three
Yep.
times. Unsuccessfully, mind you, and after they're there for a while, they kind of vanish and they kind of leave. But there's this documentary that's been produced about this, and that's kind of what got my attention. And I turned Darren onto it, and we've been talking about this for the last several days. So we thought it'd make an interesting topic. But this town is located, if you don't know, it's located on the south side of Alaska, kind of in the Bay Area right there, the southern Bay of Alaska. And it's fairly close to a town called Homer, Alaska, which I have family from there. But I'm actually filming in a location that has to do with something that happened to me and my wife that kind of brought us to this point of starting this podcast. And if you'll stay and watch the next episode, I promise I'll tell you why. But we're filming in this location today, and I did have something kind of related to Bigfoot happen to me here. But anyways, it's neither here nor there. So what kind of stands out to you about Portlock, Darren? What kind of grabbed your attention about it?
I think what really grabbed my attention the most was the fact that it was, when you hear about ghost towns, other than having the word ghost in the name, usually there's not there's not really like the supernatural element to it. Like there's always this sort of like, oh, the jobs ran dry,
Right.
or with Centralia, Pennsylvania, we had there was a literal ecological accident that
Right.
forced people out of the town. So you don't really have like this, like, the reason people left was because of unexplained stuff that kept happening.
Right.
And not that it happened once, but it happened multiple occasions.
Lots. Yeah.
And I think that's what really, really interested me about it. Josh, for our listeners, tell them what happened. Like, what is the supernatural event that occurred that made people flee the town?
Yeah. So this is kind of crazy, and I'm sure that I will get some of these facts wrong, and that's why Darren's here, because he knows the facts better than I do as far as hard facts. But basically, this place was discovered by a guy's last name was Portlock, and he was a British captain, and he came over and they found this. And if you know anything about Alaska, Alaska is, you either have to fly there to bring in goods or you have to ship them in. And so it was a very important port of entry, or could have been, to Alaska. And I think that's why so many people tried to establish it. But he came through, and I believe that there were some tribes there at the time. And long story short, about every, so often these people will try to establish this place, and then they'll just either disappear, bodies will show up, things like that. In the 1940s, they tried to settle this property. I think they had up to 100 citizens living there. I think they had a school, if I got that right. They have a school. They had a postmaster. They had a really big cannery there, and they would bring in and starting to ship out goods. And this could have been really important for Alaska, but they were there several years, and then a lot of the hunters started to show up, or not show up, disappear randomly out of nowhere. And then
it was particularly its sheep hunters. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Would hunt sheep, but apparently there's wild sheep in Alaska.
I guess we're from the deep south, so we don't really know. So, but yeah, and so they would show up, come up missing. And the thing that got me, Darren, was the one,
or mutilated.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going. Is the thing that got me is they would find bodies that would float up in the port, and they would be absolutely mutilated. I was listening to one story where a guy was hunting, and he come across this creature. He described it that was huge, over 6 foot tall, hairy, and that sounds like Bigfoot. You're probably going to be thinking bear, but he said that this thing, hit him, knocked the wind out of him, and he was able to get back to town. But he died, I think, like a week later from his injuries. And so there's been all kinds of weird stuff. They have a name for this creature. Namanuk, I think, is what they call it.
Yep.
If I'm pronouncing that wrong,
It,
let me know.
it was the indigenous tribes in the area had a name for it.
Yeah.
Like they were familiar with this thing, and like
Yeah.
it's this name, whatever the name was.
Yeah. Whatever that is.
Maybe we should have looked up names and
Yeah,
specifics
that
before we
that
did the
might have been
podcast.
important, but I have to tell the audience, if you're listening to this podcast, I am dyslexic and that will come out a lot. I promise you. So just laugh along with me. Darren's learned to laugh at me. It's all good. But, I know that it had to be something really bad for 100 people to leave town. And when they left everything. They
Yep.
literally left all their stuff except for one dude, one guy, a postmaster. And what's crazy is,
That,
do what?
I was going to say, like, that was the last attempt to
The
populate the town,
last.
right?
You talking about dedication to your job. Like,
Yeah.
no way.
Who's
No thank you, right? I'm good. Like, no, I'm not gonna stay, but he stayed till I
who's
believe 19.
the postmaster going to like deliver mail to?
I guess himself. I don't know. That'd be a really lonely job, man. I could imagine that would be super lonely, but um I believe he left in 1951. He finally gave up. I couldn't find any information about him or if he saw anything while he was there or discovered anything, but they basically said if you stayed out of the woods, if you stayed out of Bigfoot's territory, then you were okay. So,
Yeah.
here's my
And
thinking. Do
a
what?
lot of like the myth around Bigfoot is not so much aggressive attacks. It's always like, oh, we saw them, or oh, they chased us off, or they threw rocks at us,
Right,
or it made us feel threatened, but nothing ever really happened.
right.
And that's what mostly like in the States, like in the the mainland. But this is in this occasion, we have a not theory, but we have a legend of from this native people, um, and we have yes, we're in Alaska, yes, we have bears, yes, we have some of the largest bears in all of the world
Yeah,
are here.
Kodiak.
The polar bear, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
So we've got plenty of bear that is going to kill you if it sees you. So yes,
yeah,
we have to kind of take that into consideration. But I think what's really neat is that we have this legend. We have this, we have a distinct difference between the stateside Bigfoot and whatever it is that these people are referring to. And
yeah.
yes, we'll probably just refer to it as Bigfoot because that's what Josh here likes to call it.
Oh yeah,
But
Bigfoot.
but yeah, like this thing was extremely aggressive. Some of the reports were like, "Hey, if you're in its territory and it sees you,
You're
it
toast.
ain't threatening you. It's
No,
it's going to chase you down and maul you or kill you or
right.
rip your arms off and throw you X number of feet, which apparently is a thing that's people were hit by this thing and knocked distances
Yeah,
like very very powerful, which
yeah.
could be a bear, but
Here, let me
yeah,
stop you right there. Hang on, and this is where I want to get into the difference with you because I know you don't believe in Bigfoot at all, right? So let's think
no,
about this.
I don't believe in it.
Do what?
I never said I don't believe in it.
Okay, you're skeptical.
I'm very skeptical.
Okay, so
I would love to see it. I would love to see something concrete.
well, and I understand that, right? Like I get that, and I can tell you, and this is where we're going to dive in from a cop's perspective. Like everything leaves traces. When you go and we investigate a crime, right? The thing that we're looking for, that I did when I looked for a crime scene, is I look for trace evidence because obviously the crime's already happened, so you're not going to catch the criminal. You're going to catch the effects of it, right? And so Bigfoot, there's tons. If you look into it, there's lots of trace evidence. The biggest one to me is footprints. So on this island, they found 18-inch footprints. 18 inches. Now, there's no bear that's going to leave an 18-inch footprint, right? So that's the first thing that, to me, if I'm looking at this from a detective's perspective, if I'm going and looking at this as a crime scene, I'm going to want to know, what trace evidence there was, but a footprint is something that is pretty good evidence, right? And so, for one, I don't think back in the 1940s that there's going to be anybody walking around with big footprints that they've made, knocking people in the head and trying to, like, start this legend. But how do you explain that away? And another thing I'd bring to you is, like, there's no way bears can pick up something and hit you over the head with it or throw something at you. They can roll a rock down the hill, but they can't toss a boulder at you. They can't pick up a pipe and hit you over the head. Like,
Well, they can knock a tree down,
I mean, yeah, they can knock a tree down. They can do that, but the amount of
and the
time
tree,
that
right?
do what?
It looks, and the tree's got to fall. Then it technically is thrown,
I
right?
mean, yeah, but if you're getting hit by a tree that a bear's knocking down, you're probably pretty stupid because it's going to take a minute for the bear to knock the tree down, right? I mean, that's going to take a minute. So I don't know. And I hate to say this because I think our society is definitely degrading and people aren't as truthful as they used to be. But in the 1940s, man, I think they would be pretty, like pretty honest about stuff. That's just me. Maybe I'm being gullible, but I don't think there was as much corruption. And why, if they had this city that was making money and they were having a cannery and there was economy coming in and it was growing, why would they make up this story and destroy this whole town? Like, why? That's what I would want to know, is like, why? If this is a hoax, there's something out there that was running these people off. Three times it happened. Three
It wasn't
times.
just running them off; it was straight up murdering
Yeah.
people. Like 20 people at a, like, I think the first time it was like what, 20 people, just
Yeah.
like whole groups of hunters, just like, yep, just
Gone.
vanished,
Gone.
gone.
Gone. They, matter of fact, they really just, they up and left. And this was like, I mean, this is back in the 1700s when this first happened. I don't have all the
Right.
facts. There's not a whole lot of facts on that, but everybody just got back on the ship and left because they were afraid they were going to die. Now, I know that a lot of the settlers coming over here, there was all kinds of plagues and diseases and things that they were dying from, but this is different because it was, like you said, mutilating them, killing them. So here's another thing that my brain goes to. What do you know? What creature do you know that can kill people from the 1700s to the 1940s in one area? I mean,
I mean, bear
I bear can, but there was this
and
story.
bear, for a bear, it's Alaska,
I mean, I guess there was a
and
story.
it is the most, like, what is the statement? It's brown you lay down, black you fight back, white, or yeah, the polar bear, the white, uh,
You're dead.
give up. Like it's
You're
it's a,
dead. Yeah.
yeah,
I,
white. It's the statement is like white. It rhymes with it, but basically it's like, yeah, don't even bother. You're
no,
done.
you're
Like
done.
it's
Well, there's
it's
this.
it's got to eat, and when it does, it eats you, kind
Yeah,
of
you're
thing.
done. You're toast. Well, there was a
Yeah,
story, and I don't know all the details or facts, but growing up, I was, fascinated by the Kodiak bear in Alaska, and it's one of the biggest bears beside the polar bear, right? So
right.
there was this bear that killed this guy, and basically ate the dude. Ate him, mutilated him, and ate him. And so the story is the fact that once he got a taste of human flesh, that's what he hunted. He hunted
Yeah,
humans. So,
I've actually. Have you seen the photos of that?
I have not. No.
Oh yeah, I've actually seen, like, made its way on the internet for a while, but they had the photos of the guy who actually found it, shot it. He took an entire 5 or 6 rounds of 7 millimeter mag to
Wow.
actually stop it from charging him.
Wow.
It's he lifted up the paw. I remember him holding the paw, and it was like the width of his chest. It was huge,
That's crazy.
and they drew some shot of the pile of bones
Yeah.
that this Kodiak had.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just the size of everything, it was unbelievable. They kind of like, hey, it's like, here's him, here's the height of him standing up, and I think it was like 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 not standing up, but like on all fours. It was like 9 feet tall, kind of
That's
thing. So
crazy. That's
yeah,
crazy. I guess,
giant.
you know, that
Hold
I'm
that thought. I gotta get my dog's bone, or it's gonna make my life miserable.
okay. Well, here's, the thing of it is that I think about is like, what evidence do we have that it was not a bear? So, I know at a crime scene, the first thing we do when we have suspects is we start eliminating suspects, right? So we can
Right.
go in and we can figure out who we need to really focus on. So, what would you say, and I'm going to throw this at you, what would you say that would eliminate the fact that this is a bear? What evidence would you need to say, okay, this is not a bear to you?
Not there.
Yeah. Because that is a suspect, right? Like that's
Tool
the
use.
obvious suspect.
Tool use. Um, Using obvious signs of a tool
Right.
being used.
Right.
Would not that would indicate that it was using it would have opposable thumbs
Right.
to uh, to do it. Let's see, a pattern that would show intelligence beyond animal. So
Right.
I would probably look for. I'm not sure how you would see this in a crime scene, but actual malice, like
Yeah.
something that, because we have reports of this thing being incredibly territorial and aggressive,
Right.
murdering things, to killing things. So I would look for, or I would try to think in terms of what is an animal, or something that would be seeking vengeance, or
Yeah.
how could you look for that? Like I wouldn't know how to look for that in the crime scene. I really wouldn't. But
Well, I mean, the first thing you want to do is you want to look for, acts of violence. Like I know that if you walk into, a murder scene, you obviously you start looking to see if things are in disarray. If it's because that kind of tells you if it's a crime of passion or if it's meditated or what it is. You look at the scene. Like you try to figure out because the scene will tell you a story. Obviously
right,
we can't get on a boat or get on a plane and fly to Alaska and check this place out, right? Like we can't do that,
right,
but we can gather evidence. And here's the thing I would say that makes me think that it's not a bear. Two things that stick out to me. Number one is this thing threw things at people, threw them at them.
are
Do
you
what?
sure about that?
Yes, it would throw pipes, it would throw things, it would hit people with objects, right? And
Okay.
so when they looked at the bodies and the way the bodies were, mutilated, bears, if they're going to go to that point, they're going to eat you. They're
They're going to eat
they're
it.
going to eat you.
Right.
They're not going to just mutilate the body and waste it. They don't do that. Now they will kill you if you're a threat, obviously, but they're going to eat you. You're going to get your bear food. Those
Right.
bodies weren't ate. They were just. It was like this thing was mad. It was mad that somebody's in its house. It's eating them. And then the footprints for me, 18-inch footprints, man. Those are two things that I can't get my head
When
around.
when did the footprint pop up in lore? Is it 1700s, or are we closer to now?
I think that in the 1940s they started to report and find the footprints. Now, I could be wrong, guys, and if I'm wrong, let us know. But that's what I've been able to gather was that, um, they started to have people that weren't just hunters, like just random people disappear, and so bears don't go out and just randomly hunt people. I mean, there's occasions and there's things like the one we talked about, but those are the two things that the fact that it was hit with things and then the footprints are probably the two things that lean me to think, man, and the fact that this has gone on for so long. If
Right.
let's just say it is a bear that got a taste of human flesh and that's what it did. It's dead. There's no way. I mean, it's dead. It's not going to last hundreds and hundreds of years. It's gone. And the odds of another bear coming along doing the same thing again and being that territorial in that area, because bears migrate, they move, they migrate, they don't stay in one area. Um,
Right.
so how do you explain that? I don't know. I don't understand, and we can dive into that if you want me to give you my thoughts on why what I think Bigfoot is, but um, I don't know. Bigfoot makes sense to me because to me Bigfoot is nothing more than an ape that has been undiscovered. Maybe that's one of my thinkings with it. I have something totally different we can go into, but those are kind of my thoughts. I don't know, man. What would you say would be the evidence for Bigfoot? What would you say? What would make you think that it could be that?
What would make me think that it could be Bigfoot?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like it. It
I mean,
sounds like it already. I'd say that like all the circumstantial evidence, because that's all we. I mean, we do have a lot of
right.
circumstantial evidence for Bigfoot. I mean, there are people who report like, hey, we've got DNA evidence here. We've got cat molds and castings of footprints here and there. But for the most part, we have all this circumstantial evidence, and I think what really what drives it home for me, and what really makes me more accepting, is the Native American
Right.
legend making that comes with
Yeah.
it, because
There was a
we
lot.
have the indigenous tribes there who talked about this thing, this place in the woods, this entity that would essentially is extremely aggressive towards outsiders.
Right.
And a lot of times, I mean, you always have like there's always a, if I'm not mistaken, most indigenous tribes, like even on mainland side, they usually have their own Sasquatch, Bigfoot
They do. Yeah.
stories.
Yeah, it's in their lore. It's definitely like if you look at their history, they talk about that creature for, as far back as you want to go. Depends on
Right.
how far down the rabbit hole you want to go. Like they talk about it, right? But you talk about Bigfoot today, you're gonna get made fun of. So I mean, I'm okay with getting laughed at because I'm used to that. But
Yeah, no.
like
Well, you're
okay,
married.
whatever.
Used
But
to be a laughter.
yeah, but I think that that's probably the most logical explanation. But then again, it's like, how do you explain Bigfoot? But I don't know. That's pretty interesting to me, and I just thought it was a cool topic to maybe start this thing off with and jump it off. But if you guys have enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe. Please stay tuned for more information. We're going to try to roll these things out about once a month and just talk about different kind of mysteries of the unknown and bring it from I don't know, maybe a different perspective. And if you want to know more about Bigfoot, we'll dive into that maybe next time. So, all right.
All right.
Thanks.
Good show. Good show.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Darren. See you
Yeah,
guys.
thank you.
All right. Bye.
Later.